You got me now?
Yeah, I got you. You got me?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's
do it again. We are back in the saddle.
Back in the saddle. It's June, baby. We are almost halfway through the year. It has flown by, but also crept by. Welcome aboard. This is Crushing Iron Podcast. We're episode 482, and it is a beautiful, sunshiny day here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it is June 1st, 2021.
The kids outside are running sprints up and down our block.
I know. We've got the Y-Cap behind us, and I'm sure they're in from like some new summer camps, and school is out. And yeah, they were doing wind sprints down the street, which, hey, kudos to them. Get them out, get them active. We hope you have been active this last weekend. Racing is back, full on. Hope you got out and got to participate in some races this last weekend, or I guess it's Memorial Day, so there wasn't too much going on besides like the old traditional Memorial Day 5K. We took the day off from the podcast because it's a Tuesday, but I'm pretty sure we both worked otherwise because that's just kind of what we do. Your holiday is our work day. That's kind of how we're wired. We appreciate you tuning in. It's first time listening. Welcome. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. We know that your time is valuable, so I appreciate you tuning in. We cover all things triathlon and a whole lot of life. We cover everything in between. We do swim, bike, run, detailed podcasts. We do Q&A podcasts that are driven in large part from our Facebook group, which is Crushing Iron Group. You can answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. A lot of times we'll let them drive the topics that we cover in the podcast, just kind of the overall vibe of the community. Have on a rare guest here and there, but we'll do race recaps. We'll do race previews as I think we've gotten a lot of listeners here that with Ohio 70.3 coming up down the road. You got Muncie, which is now in October, Chattanooga. We've had a lot of them. We'll do more this year. We did our race preview and race recap for Chattanooga 70.3. We'll do some more of those in the next coming months. But tune in for that. But for the most part, Mike and I as coaches, athletes, best friends, co-hosts, just kind of sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion of what we're going through, what our athletes are going through. We're not experts. We are definitely not professionals. We've just been around for a while, and we've made a lot of mistakes. We've had a lot of successes. Our athletes have done the same. So we've, I wouldn't say we've seen it all, but we've seen pretty much most of it. So what you might be going through in your life, in triathlon, we've probably, either seen it or been through it, our athletes have, so we've dealt with it. And that's kind of the purpose of the podcast is to, give you the tidbits of info that we have and accumulated over the last, 10 or 15 years and let you apply them to your own daily life, to your own training. And just do the best you can. We've had a lot of emails through the last week or so of just reiterating, which is my favorite compliment that we get, is just that it's like sitting in a room having a conversation with a couple friends, and that is will always be my favorite kind of compliment that we get of the podcast. Is we want it to be inclusive, not exclusive. That's a huge part of what we do in our community itself. We have everybody anybody. So, welcome. And, do you want to do our social media press here before I just kind of go on my roll like I did last week? Cause that was one of my strongest intros ever. No pressure.
I do want to say that, because back in the day when I was supposed to be doing Instagram, it was very weak. It was very weak.
You're being
and
generous.
Now I'm
spicy.
not even a big fan of Instagram, but I got to be honest. I kind of like going there and looking at our page now.
How is it?
It's really solid.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
See?
I'm not on Instagram. I have no idea.
It's
but
just kind of fun to see
heard.
what's coming next. And Summer's doing a great job of like updating it and putting interesting content on there. Because that was always my catch, was like, what's interesting? And she kind of understands it.
We're not interested.
I don't understand it. Every once in a while I put, a picture of whatever.
Maddie and some pair of shoes.
Like,
and you're like, dogs and shoes.
We all have dogs.
And
it was just like, it really had no continuity, but now it's rolling. So go to C26 Triathlon on Instagram.
Yeah, check it out.
Check that out. And, maybe one of these days she'll get our Twitter going.
Does anyone even do Twitter?
We have Twitter auto posting.
Do we have TikTok?
No, but I'm sure
sure
like if you ran that by her, we'd be TikToking left and right.
Or Snap Convo.
I'd be
Is that the other one?
Old man dancing videos from my apartment.
Get MySpace back up and running too again. We'll see what we can do there.
But no, that's it. That's all we got.
That's all you got. Head over to our website too. We've had the last week with, I think, and we've mentioned this a few times, but it was for a couple of weeks there after Texas got canceled. it was kind of up. The whole season seemed up in the air. Then it was kind of like overnight. The kind of the week before Ironman Tulsa and Chattanooga was kind of like, dude, racing's back, not getting canceled. We are on. So a lot of people, I think, have been kind of caught in the caught between a rock and a hard injury from the past year or two in terms of thinking that they might get a chance to defer or not race this year. But racing's back. So we've had a couple people hop back into do our club membership, which is a 12-month-long program. No matter when you sign up for it, it's a great option for you if you think you're going to have a hard time scheduling and doing your own training with maybe some not very well-timed races now that a lot of them have been postponed or deferred. Check that out. It's on our website, c26triathlon.com. You can click under under the coaching tab, you have the club membership. Mike has that up. It's just a really awesome option. Then you can also click on the custom coaching tab for more info on all the coaches. I know all the rosters are kind of filling up as we usually do by end of June or July every year. So if you're interested in coaching from any one of the coaches, click on there, find the one that's the right fit for you, and reach out. We have all of our camps are sold out this year. We have our first one of the year, and another one this year. We have our tech camp starting next week. But we do, as last I checked, we have an Ironman Chattanooga training camp weekend set up for end of July, first week of August. We have 5 spots left for that. So if you're thinking about it, hop on there and you can find more info on that on our website. And for any questions about camps, c26operations@gmail.com.
I like it, man.
We're getting better at our injury.
Our injury?
Our entry.
Oh, entry.
Yeah, a soft entry.
Maybe. I mean, it's only been 482 attempts.
I know, and we still struggle with them. But what we don't struggle with and haven't struggled with in the last 3 or 4 days is you're back.
I'm back.
I rolled up into, took a little break, Hayden went down for a nap. Well, an attempted nap, and I made my way over to the hub to get in a sneak in this pool, and I was like, yeah, because Mike has been on a roll lately. He has been firing at all cylinders. I don't know if it was the shoulders back or Chat 70.3 got your juices flowing, or just the time of year. But anyway, he seemed in a great groove. And here I am thinking, all right, I'm going to roll up in here. I'm going to get my swim in. He's going to come down later in the day, maybe get something out of the office, maybe do a little bit of work. He's going to see water on the floor. And he's going to be like, he got one in on me. So open up the door, walk in, and the bike's missing. And my first thought was, God, he's like double rides this weekend. He is on it, which is a staple of what we have always done for a lot of long course athletes, is a double ride weekend. So I felt deflated there for a minute because I want to have my moment of greatness, and you robbed it from me. But you noticed a little bit of water on the floor, and you got back in, and I almost left you a Post-it note that was like, I'm back, and put it next to the bike rack, but I figured you would notice.
No, I went in there, and I'm like, because I was thinking about because that's what I've been trying to do, is just get in the tank a little bit after a workout just to loosen up and keep my swim alive. And we'll talk about that later, because that's sort of what we're thinking is, that lately we're trying to really work on our weaknesses. So anyway, I went in the room because I had swam 2 days before, it was a day before.
Day before.
And I went in there and I kind of was looking around and I looked over and I'm like, these splash guards are wet. And I'm like, is it still that humid in here from yesterday? And then I'm like, he came in here and swam.
Got it in, man.
So he did that. So I immediately put those things up and got in the pool. So
attaboy.
But yeah, I think it's funny because I walked in this morning and of course I glanced over at the bike and it looked used. And I'm like, damn,
it looked used.
He's been on the bike. He looked at me and he goes, yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
He got me in the morning. So that's always what I'm doing, is playing catch up with you. But but I said, man, you've really been hitting the bike lately. And you said, well, I got to work on my weakness.
I do. And that is I think it's always a challenge for all of us in all aspects of life, because there are so many things that we each have that we're just not good at in all aspects of life, in relationships, professionally, in triathlon, friendships, whatever it is. There are just things that we're just generally not good at. And we know that. And one of the reasons that for a lot of us continue to not be good at these specific things is we just don't like addressing them, right? Because I want to just keep doing what I love doing, and then at least I can enjoy that versus beating my head against the wall about something I can't, which is in large part why I absolutely love. I'll be honest. If I could do swim analysis all day, every day, you know me.
Yeah,
I'd do it. I would want. It is the most fulfilling thing, because swimming is such a very, very, very hard thing for people to pick up later on in life. I often give the example. It's like trying to it's like learning French when you're in, elementary school versus trying to learn it when you're like 45. Like much easier to to learn when you're younger. And that's swimming, because it's so technical and it's so, and that's why I guess we swim a lot, but why you and I are both, and myself specifically, are so passionate about swimming and coaching swimming and technique and just getting people to enjoy it and to show them there is a way to get improvement out of it. Because it is, the majority of athletes, it is their weakness. And it's not only their weakness, it's the discipline within triathlon that is the most frustrating for people. It is the one that is the most confusing. It is the one where people ignore and avoid. Maybe avoid is a better way to put it. Avoid, or have been given such complex and counterproductive, or even just frankly just really poor advice when it comes to swimming, that they don't see improvement. They go two or three times a week, and they don't get any better. So what happens is you just become disinterested, right? With all things in life. Like, people do this, the same thing with dieting or anything else. Like you try a diet and you work out hard and you do this, and after like a month, what happens? Well, I haven't lost any weight. You become disinterested, even though you might be on the other side of a breakthrough. We have a very, very short attention span when it comes to improvement, right? And I think that's just something that society has adopted, is that we get better, and then we may stagnate for a minute, and then our next thing to go to is like, well, I think I might need to try something different. Or I think I maybe just try something, like just avoid it, not do it. And that's why people do swimming. They go from trying to swim well and swim hard and improve 2 or 3 times a week, and then they go down to like 1 a week, because they're like, I'm not going to get any better, so what's the point?
Right.
And then they just become and stay the swimmer that they're always going to stay, if not getting weaker and slower. That's why we love it. That's why we love getting people in this pool here and working on this, because there is a way to get better and faster. And that's why people get so excited about it, because like, oh, there is a way to get faster, there is a way to get better, but it takes work. And I from myself, like when it comes to looking at like really breaking down the 3 disciplines that in triathlon, like mine's always going to be swimming, then running, then cycling. Cycling has since I started the sport, for whatever reason, has been the one that I have always had not trouble with, because I'm still, I consider myself a fairly strong cyclist, but in the race, I always have to swim well, and then I get past the bike, then I have to run people down. I'm never I start out as the hunted, then I become the hunter at the end of the race because I get past on the bike. So, but it's one of those things where you have to really focus and say, you know what, I might not see this improvement overnight, but what I want to see is I want to improve overall. And you just have to think about it and address it and fully commit. You can't just kind of dip one toe in the water and think, I think I kind of want to work on my cycling, or I kind of want to work on my swimming. You have to go all in, and that's something you have to do repeatedly every single week. And that's, again, why people get so frustrated with swimming or with running, right? Well, I think I really want to do a swim block. You're like, well, what that entails? Like, that entails like 3 to 5 times a week. Can you commit? I was thinking like 1 or you can't do it 2 out of the 7 days of the week and expect to get better. Same thing goes for running. Like I really want to, improve my run speed. How about, like we run like, twice a week, and we'll make one of them a tempo workout. It doesn't work like that. You have to commit overall to doing it and getting better. And that, again, is something that athletes have trouble with, because if you're looking for a result, an improvement, you're looking in the wrong place. If you're looking for it tomorrow, it's going to be in the next few months. It's going to be when you finally get to race, to finally see it like unveiled or shown off, is like, that's when it's done and it matters, because a lot of athletes like to show off in training, and then when it comes to race day, kind of flop because they burn their biscuits in training, and that's all they really have. So I think it's a great time of year to work on all 3 of them, because everything's wide open. The weather is great. You can get outside and do everything. And so if you're a person who knows they have a specific weakness, or even just a discipline that you just don't like, right? Find a way to like it, find a way to address it, and get better.
Mm. Yeah, man, it's this, when you put in those terms, like being the hunted or hunter, I think there's always this variance, right? That has to, you're obviously on top of the ladder with the swim, mostly in your age group and overall. And then, so your idea of maybe getting on that bike and maybe holding off 5 to 10 people in your age group, then, over the course of that bike instead of getting past or whatever makes a huge difference, right? So I always look at the swim, for example, because that has always been my nemesis, and I'm always hunting out there, and I usually, have sometimes a good swim, sometimes a really bad swim, and then it's all on, and my bike is usually, I'm very comfortable on the bike, if nothing else, and I feel comfortable pushing it. And then I'll have a decent run. I usually kind of go from 60th to 30th to 20th or something like that over the course of the, so I kind of have it in place. But for me, the swim, I feel like in order to be a really, like on the podium type person or top 10, you have to have a good swim. Like you have to reach your potential in the swim and be comfortable getting out of the water with that. And that's where it all starts. So I've been thinking about this lately. Is like you almost have to start in the beginning. I mean, like if you're a good runner, but you can't bike, your run's usually not going to like make up for it. A lot of times it depends on how hard you go. But if you can't go hard on the bike and work hard on the bike and then get off and run, your run really doesn't matter. So it's almost like you got to start with the swim and kind of like in your own terms, master that. And then sort of like at least be competent there and then be competent on the bike. And then, that run might come to you or whatever the case is. But something about working in that order for me is just making more and more sense. It's like, it's almost like you got to master the building blocks of the day, before you can really expect a really good time, and
again, like, and it does, it all goes back to swimming. Okay, like it just all goes.
It's so weird because swimming will help you everything swimming. Else.
Like we had an athlete over this last weekend who took his overall win, his first ever overall win in a race, and he went after the race. He went back and looked, and he was like, and I generally say this because it's for the most part it's true, especially in long course racing, is that the swim probably won't win you the race,
right?
But it will 100% lose you the race. Especially for long course racing, that's just a fact. Like it will, and especially if you watch like the higher end, like if you give away 5, 6, 7 minutes on your swim, you probably aren't going to get it back against the top level of the field. And so, but this athlete, he was like, I look back and the guy that got second outbiked me and outran me, but I outswam him. So it helps everything, right? It's like swimming, and that's why I'll never understand like because I generally believe that, people always say, well, it's the, it's the shortest of the three. So you really don't have to focus on it. You just gotta kind of get through it. Mm-hmm. I think that is total BS, obviously, but I would love to hear those people who say the swim doesn't really matter. It's short. Let's make it the same distance and let's put it last. Let's put it at the end. You can keep all the distance the same. You can keep it a 1.2 swim. You can keep it a 2.4 mile swim, so your argument is the same. It's the shortest distance of 3. But now you do a 56 mile bike, a 13.1 mile run, and then you do a 1.2 mile swim. Tell me you're not going to change. Tell me you're not going to look at the swim totally different. Same thing goes for an Ironman. Let's say you're going to start for a 112 mile bike. You wake up on race day and they're like, all right, guys, listen, it's lightning outside. Instead of canceling the swim, we're still going to swim because the storm's going to move out of the way in like the next 2 or 3 hours. So we're just going to bike 112. You're going to run a marathon, and then we're going to swim 2.4. Don't you think people would take it a little more serious if it was at the end? Because after doing all that stuff, you want to be so tired you can actually get through it. The same goes for when you put it in the front. Because it's all about energy expenditure. We talk about this all the time. But people will always negate the swim because this is the reasoning that many athletes use to justify not focusing on something they're not good at. They'll use anything. Well, it's the shortest part of the race, or I'm just not getting any better, or it takes so much time to do, or I'm just not really interested because I don't really know what I'm doing. Then take the time and figure it out. But I get it, because swimming is not like, oh, I can just get on and pedal, right? Like cycling, it's not like you spend 45 minutes of a cycling class working on your pedal stroke and technique, right? Same thing goes for running. It's like, all right, we're going to run today, but an hour, but we're going to do, 45 minutes of technique and drill work. You don't do that. You're like, I want to get to work. You just run. Swimming is different, but it all affects the next thing. And when you see athletes come out of the water, and even if they don't look fresh, they're going to look exhausted or be exhausted and have already spent energy because they're either A, swimming too hard, right, compared to where their current fitness is, or they just haven't done the training, right? And they're having to just get through it and waste time and spend an hour and 20 minutes in water when they could spend an hour and 5 and come out just the same level of freshness. But it's the work that goes into taking those 15 minutes off that most of us want to ignore.
Yeah. Well, we spent our childhood running and biking. You know, just naturally we'd go for a run, or we'd play sports, or we'd go out and ride the bike and everything like that. And whenever we'd go to the pool, which I did often when I was a kid, all I did was lay on a towel and check out the, girls and stuff. I didn't really swim.
Yeah, most of us didn't.
So it's like, I remember when you had to pass the test, and it was like you do these lessons and everything, and then you just immediately forgot them. You swam one length or whatever it was to get the pool, the deep end diving board access, and then you do cannonballs and stuff like that. And you did, like, I just think we underestimate the idea that, as a kid, when you're doing that stuff, it just really ingrains it in your body, and you just understand how to do it. And swimming has never happened for most of us as a child. It did for you, but so the question, I guess, becomes, how are you working on your weakness? I'm just trying to do frequency in the pool. I mean, I'm just trying to get in there and get more and more comfortable. What's that?
What is your weakness?
Oh, my weakness?
Because I don't necessarily think it has to be a discipline. It could just be discipline.
Oh, that's for sure. Because if you want to attribute that to the bike, which I feel very comfortable on, and the hardest part about yesterday was getting on the bike, and then the second hardest part was after an hour and 15 minutes staying on the bike. Mm-hmm. And I got lucky because I found a new trail.
Oh, do share.
Out the Greenway.
Yeah.
When you go past the Ironman start, and then you go through that little warehouse area, and then there's a couple things, and you keep going. And instead of going out to the dam, where that road was closed, so you come over that little bridge and you come into that little park where people park. You go under that bridge, and there's a whole different trail that goes for miles.
Sweet, pin drop me.
So that thing happened, and luckily, because I was bored, man. I just get bored on that bike sometimes, and I think that's a lot of discomfort and pain. Is like, all right, this is enough, whatever. But when that happened, I was just kind of intrigued, and the next thing you know, I was just like, I'm going to keep riding. And one of the big things, like you were talking, was like, you like longer sort of endurance-y type rides, and I like going after it. So like, even on a ride like that, if I see a hill, I just like to mash it, and it's nothing like a huge hill, but I like to really take my mind off of the mundane or something like that.
You and I have and I think a lot of athletes are like this, especially and I have to have this hard conversation with, especially runners or even swimmers. Like, I'm a swimmer. Really? Yeah. I grew up swimming year round. When's the last time you swam? Man, it's been 5 or 6 years. I'm a swimmer. I'm like, you very well might be a swimmer, but if you haven't swam in a while, it's irrelevant, right? Same thing goes for running. Yeah, dude, I'm just a runner. Grew up running, high school, track, college, even I haven't ran in college. I'm a runner. It's my thing. You're 55. Okay. If you haven't ran in a while, so you're no longer a runner. You used to run. We have to now become a runner, but our mindset is still always there, right? It's you always revolt back to, I've just always been a biker. It's my thing. That's so when it comes time to make excuses, right? Or to reason our way, or to justify our reason for cutting a ride short or not going, it's like, I've always got it. That's just kind of my thing.
Yeah.
Which leads to, and to be honest, I have the same view of swimming, right? Because I swam year-round growing up. I know what I'm doing. I hopped in the pool yesterday, and I haven't swam. I swam 2 or 3 times in the last 3 months, and I was able to swim sub 130 pace for 30 minutes, in the end of this pool. But when I got done, I go through these periods when I get kind of not discouraged, but I think I kind of get pissed off because I got done, and most people would think, oh, well, that's great. You got that natural ability. And my first thought was, I feel very fortunate, right, that I can do that. However, wouldn't it be nice, Robbie, if you could one day, actually if you could perform up to the level of your talent, right?
Oh,
Talent
so you're getting a little mad at yourself.
I was kind of not. I wasn't pissed, but I was kind of like, I was like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, you have this ability because I swam, billions of yards growing up, and that's the thing with swimming. Like people say, it's just like riding a bike. Well, for swimmers, if you grew up swimming, you've done it for a long period of time, like I haven't, at least kept up on and off doing it. You just can, right? And that's why it's like I tell people all the time, to be totally frank, it's like if I didn't swim a year on growing up, I wouldn't do triathlon because it's such a hard thing to pick up, which is also why I'm so passionate about teaching it. But so I got done and I thought like, hey, what if you like actually swam like, 3 days a week, and did like, actually could swim up to your ability, not just and it's not natural talent. It's just like the talent that you like the swimming, it's your pedigree from what you've done for a long period of time. And then took that because it would help your cycling, right? And it would help everything else out. And then maybe you could just, do it all from the front and see what happens if you could eventually get there. And so we always find our way to kind of reason our way out of like falling back on our, resting on our laurels. It's like, I can do it. I know that I can do it. And where we get ourselves into trouble, and I get myself into swimming like that with like, I can just kind of plop in and still be up there at the higher end of my age group and swim really, really well. You do the same thing with cycling. You're like, dude, I know I can, you get your fastest bike split. It was actually 116 miles Iron Chattanooga, and it came off like a max ride of like 75 or 80 miles, right? So those thoughts always creep into our head of like, you did it back then, you can still do it. Like, you don't have to do this. And this isn't obviously me like advocating for you have to always take, a ton of more hours to get better. But if you really want to be your best and figure out, because it's like it's like basically telling yourself, I have this tool in the toolbox, and it can basically help me build and achieve and create really anything I want to. I just don't really feel like using it a lot because I know it's always there. And so you end up not doing and not creating the things that you could because we just get lazy and complacent with it. And so that is a weakness, right? But the same thing goes for the, and we can also, in a counter way, we can use that same argument towards our weakness. I'm never going to get any better at it. So why dedicate the time to something I'm not going to get better at? We're humans. We can justify our way to reason out anything. As long as it makes sense to us and makes us feel better, we will justify it, right? We can create whatever, reality we want to in our minds that will allow us to feel better about everything that we're doing, no matter what. But the reality is sometimes is that a weakness is a weakness. And if you want it to turn into either a strength or something, or something that's going to at least alleviate how much of a weakness it is, you got to work on it. You have to commit to it, not just for a minute, but for a while. And usually if you're going to put that much effort into committing into improving a weakness, then the rest of your things are going to kind of rise to the top as well, because that motivation, that focus, and that determination is not just going to be all in on your weakness. It's going to sprinkle across all of them and have a total overall effect in your training.
No, I love that because I think most of us really kind of like blame the run. Like we've talked about that before, like how it's always the run, right? We want to make our run strong. We got to do this. And it's easy to overlook the swim and bike before it, but I do stupid stuff all the time. Like on Friday, I was like, I'm going to go run, and I had been running a little bit and I pushed it a little further than I wanted to, but I was like, it felt pretty good. I went like a long ways, probably more than I should have, but I was doing a little bit of walk around. So it felt good. And I'm like, wow, okay. So then I rode hard on Saturday, and then Sunday I wanted to come back and I was like, I'm going to go running today just to bring, and then I'm like, no, you're going to get on the bike.
No.
You're going to get on the bike because you have to, I'm not saying I still have my run, but I know it's in the, ballpark. And I know that extra cycling that I do right now is just only going to help and help and help and help. The whole process is going to help my run, and it's going to help me just get back into shape, because it's always the hardest thing to do for me is just get on the bike. It's just one of those things, because I know when I get on that thing, it's like, it's going to be a while. You're going to be sitting on that hard
It's my
seat.
thing in the pool. It's because you said it, and if you haven't noticed, this is why we don't tell you guys we're professionals or experts. Like, we still have the same difficulties with everything, right? We've just been through it all. We've achieved it and accomplished a lot, but at the same time, we're still like, you're always going to be trying to figure it out and try to get better. And that's part of the process and why we do what we do. But I have that same thought, like you said, you know, you like when I write, I have to go hard, right? And I think a lot of this also is just kind of understanding who you are and then making the best out of who you are and what you know you can accept. And listen, like when we say like weaknesses, we don't want to reinvent you as who you are as a person. Like, you know, I had this conversation with you before we went live, and I said, I've always been a volume guy. Like I've always responded really, really. I don't know if my body was just made that way from the years and years and years I did competitive swimming, where it was all volume. I mean, if you think about it, like swimming is the ultimate volume sport, right? Swimming in more than anything, almost, because you could swim 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 sometimes a week during our hill weeks for a 200-yard free on Saturday, right? So like if you want to talk about volume sports, that is the volume sport. And you know, like the people that swim like the 50 free in the Olympics, like they swim like, you know, hundreds of thousands of yards a year to compete for 20 seconds, right? So it's ultimate. So I don't know if my body was just created that way from such a young age, but I've always adapted and seen my best improvements from volume, from riding 4 or 5 times a week and I get great results. But then the truth of the matter is that I don't have that time anymore. You know, like I just don't have the time to do that. So instead of kind of beating my head against the wall or becoming discouraged or being frustrated because I can't get the work in that I want to get work in, the solution is because that way I'm never going to get to where I want to go no matter what. Right. Because it's like, you know, trying to build, you know, a wall out of bricks, and you have a wheelbarrow that's gigantic and you have one that's small, and you're trying to fit, you know, 100 bricks in the small one, and you keep filling it up and it keeps tipping over, you keep filling it, and all you gotta do is get the bricks over there and build the wall. You got this other wheelbarrow who's the right size to fit everything in. It might not fit as much, but you take it over there and you build the wall. Meanwhile, the person behind you who's got, you know, this different view of how to get things done is going to be just trying to simply get the bricks to where they want to go for days and weeks and months or even years and never build it, you know, because they think it has to be done one way, and they'll just, again, become so frustrated and so discouraged by doing it this way, that the best way to get there is just to get there. Right. And that's kind of something that I have to accept for myself too, is a reshaping of what my reality is. And can I keep kind of frustrating myself to, you know, honestly, just getting frustrated and to be honest, just discouraged with the lack of time that I have now from a personal standpoint. Yet while, yes, it's a choice, I can still have the best of both worlds. I can still, you know, have the profession that we have and dedicate my time to coaching. But at the same time, like I just don't have the time to do those rides and that many runs and that many, you know, well, I can't say that many swims a week because that has been happening. But what I can do is at least it's just figuring out what works within the scope of what I can do. And within that, I can become successful. And within that, I can also become confident because listen, completing a week at 100% is always better for you than completing a week at 60, no matter what it is. You can ask me to give you 16 hours. And if I lay it out 16 hours and you're only able to complete 10 a week, you're still not getting the same result as if I had told you, all right, you only have 10 hours this week. Here's 10. You get all 10. It's not the same because the workouts are laid out differently. You just have to, it comes down to it. You just have to kind of accept. And then once you can do that, just not from a training standpoint and from where things fit in your life, but also with what's your best discipline and what's not is you can at least start to move forward. Because a lot of athletes the reason they get stale, the reason they are stagnant is because they just continue to do the same thing over and over and over again when it comes to not understanding and realizing what their real, true, maybe not weakness, but their biggest obstacle and, you know, and what's impeding their progress is not always what they think it is.
I think I underestimate my ability to do stuff, like to handle things. So one of the things lately I've been thinking about is I'm going to push myself a little harder because I've talked about how I don't sleep well a lot of times. And I wonder if sometimes I'm not like harboring energy inside, and this would be a really great outlet for it. Like pushing longer endurance stuff or pushing, you know, just like getting done with a long run and then getting in the pool the other day right afterwards. No, my mind would say, No. That run was enough, be careful. But I got in and just sort of like easily, swam, chill. And it felt good, And so, and to me, that's everything, because the hardest part about training for me always is getting going. And usually the run is the easiest one because you just put your shoes on and kind of just walk out and just go, whether it sucks or not or whatever. It's easy to get going. But I'm the kind of guy that would literally get everything ready for my bike, put my bike in the car, and then be like, I forgot my water bottles upstairs. And then I would contemplate canceling the ride.
Yep.
And it's just such a weird thing because there's so many variables with the cycling thing. And so you always try to make it easier and like pull it together and find that, because I don't want to go ride on the roads. It's a bad time, blah, blah, blah. There's so many variables.
We always find a coincidence that we want to find.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Because I've been the same thing. I'm like, hey, there's a sign. See, you left your goggles at home. You're not supposed to swim today. It all takes like a 5 minute. I read it almost every week with athletes. You're like we always look for a coincidence. Like I always use like the car buying philosophy. It's like when you're looking for a car, all of a sudden, everything you see is that car. There aren't just more cars on the road now, because they've always been there. You're just looking for them. Like that's just how it is. Like you want to shop for a Toyota Camry, all you're gonna notice are Toyota Camrys because that's what your eyes like. I see it's a sign. I'm just seeing more of them. I love that. It's just I saw one driving by when I drove the house this morning. Time for a Toyota Camry. Like I told you.
Yep, it makes sense.
Same thing goes for finding our way out of riding or running or swimming when we're like you said, like left my bottles upstairs and you're like, God, see, I wasn't supposed to do it today. I'm just going to go upstairs and take it off. Like we do this all the time with our stuff, and it's just human nature, right? To do this. You're like, see, told you, wasn't supposed to do this there. Or I forgot to meal prep, trying to be eating clean or eating right. And you're like, chicken's not unthawed all the way yet. Guess it's out to eat tonight. It's like a big deal. Like we all do stuff like that. I think it's just human nature. I don't think you need to beat yourself up at it, but I think what you do need to do is recognize when it's becoming more of a pattern than it really is like hey, I really didn't take that off, instead of like, I'm just avoiding it to avoid it because I like avoiding things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just got to go, I don't know. I know when I'm getting in a better groove, I start like yesterday, with that ride, I got I had these water bottles from the day before still in a cooler, and I just had it kind of one with just water and one with that base that we've been using, trying out. And I grabbed both these water bottles, and they're both water. And I noticed it when I started riding. I'm like, man, I don't even have any fuel or whatever. So I just went out, and I was like, all right, screw it, just go ride and see how it goes. And it was fine. I just took it easy. It was actually maybe a good way to force me to take it easy, not having anything with it. But it's just like that idea of getting to the pool and you forgot your swim cap, or I don't know about goggles. Goggles is a tough one, but they used to swim without goggles. So like, if next time that happens, just get in there without it and keep your head up. And you know what I mean? Like that's how it was, wasn't it? Back in the Olympics and everything, they never had goggles. Did they open their eyes in the chlorine?
I mean, back in my day, we didn't use goggles.
All the time.
We just swam.
You
Back
didn't
in
have,
my day.
Back in your day, you didn't have goggles?
No, dude, back in my day,
You're probably right at the forefront of the goggle movement.
But I was but I mean, what we wore back in the day, and if you're real, this is how you can always tell. If you're lining up at because I mean, like Ironman 70.3, just triathlon start lines in general are such a mind F, because someone can look like lean and ripped and just insanely in shape, and you look at them and you think, that person's going to crush me today. Mm-hmm. The reality is they made us come from like a CrossFit background and just at a Spartan race have literally no idea how to swim, and you're going to wax them. However, if you want to line up in a swim start and you want to figure out who the real swimmers are, look for a pair of Swedes. Swedes are the goggle. If you want to know what not real swimmers, but most swimmers go to are Swedes. And it's and what Swedes are there, it's just plastic. There is no foam around the gasket that goes over your eyes, which is like the opposite of the triathlon universe, which is like, let me find like the most extravagant goggle piece to put over my face. It's literally, like they're like $10 and they come in like this clear bag. I remember growing up, the big thing was, I had to beg my parents for these like just pimped out, polarized Swedes. They looked vicious. Like when you got on the box, you were like, they're like, dude, this is it. They just looked really cool. They're brown with this like really awesome polarization on the front of the lens. But they come just with the strap, which is just a long rubber strap like you get with like a paddle. And then you get the 2 goggles, like the gaskets, and then you get string, okay? And then you get a blue like piece of tubing to create for your nose piece. And you basically put it on, you create like the perfect seal. That's when you see a swimmer like that on the start line, you know you're about to get dropped. Like they are going like Swedes are the thing. But no, so I wasn't on the cutting edge. That's what we used. And I mean, Olympic swimmers to this day still use a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them still use Swedes.
Really?
Yeah.
There's probably a lot more sponsor money in other.
There's definitely, yeah,
goggles.
probably not behind Swedes, but behind like, Arena and all the other, Roka probably too, like, just goggle that's, covers up half of your face. Where I'm like, it doesn't allow your eyes to see more. Mm-hmm. Your eyes don't get more vision just by, wearing a scuba.
All right.
mask.
So you don't have time
to swim?
to do your long run or rides.
I mean, I know.
So what's your new strategy?
Sorry, I got off the.
That's okay.
I got off on
I want to get to the bottom of that one because you told me beforehand. It's like, yeah, I don't have necessarily the time for volume riding, but I do. This.
I have the time for a long ride a week, but I don't have time. Like so, in my what I would think was arguably the best shape I've ever been in my life was before Texas 70.3 in November of last year before it got canceled. Mm-hmm. That to me was probably the best shape I've ever been. I was riding five days a week probably. I was doing my long ride that was like 3 to 4 hours, but I was also doing like 2 or 3 2.5 hour rides. I was just getting in a ton of volume. That was during toward the end of the pandemic. No one was racing. We had the hub, but we weren't really using it a ton because of everything that was going on. I had the time to do it. I just had all the time to do that. Then fast forward to now where we got people, multiple people in the hub each week. Everyone's racing. Like it's full on gas. Like it's the busiest time of year for you and I. I don't have that kind of time. So what's probably going to look like is keeping my long ride during the week. And then probably hitting it hard twice, maybe during the week on the bike. Mm-hmm. And if I can get in a third or fourth one, or a fourth one, great. If not, it is what it is. But it's better than assuming and just wanting to get in more, but knowing I probably can't. I have to kind of do this. I have to apply the same, and they're going to be hard, right? The ones that you like. I'm not going to get on and noodle around. I'm going to get to work, 10-minute warm up, and just get after it. And then, but what that's just, it's part of just understanding and accepting and, I guess adopting the same thing we tell our athletes right work with them is, when we put a plan out for you, I don't want you to look at it and think, all right, I'm pretty sure I can get that done. Right. And what ends up happening is you check their training peaks on Friday and you see a swim, a long ride, and a run all on Sunday because they've moved them all the end of the week. Yeah. Like we all know you ain't getting it done. We all know you're not doing a 3.5 hour bike and a 2 hour run, even though like that's what some coaches prescribe as like a weekly brick. We're not doing that. I know you're not doing it. Like they've taken like 3 days off during the week and also on the weekend has like 9 workouts. And you're like, dude, come on. Like we all know. But it's like they're just delaying the red to the last moment because they can move it to the end of the week. Like, just stop moving them. Just take it and move on. You don't want to look at a week and think, I can probably get that done. You want to look at a week and think, I know for certain I can get all of that in. And I think just having that confidence to get it done can be a game changer for most people.
Hey, so in that case, so like, let's say, for whatever reason, somebody doesn't feel like doing the ride on Tuesday and they decide to move it to Sunday or whatever. Would you is it, if they don't feel like it, a lot of times, obviously it comes down to time, some weird thing happened during the day or whatever. But, let's say you have would you what's wrong with getting on there for 30 minutes instead of an hour if you have that, on Tuesday?
If you got it, just do it. Because here's the thing.
I always, that yellow versus the green thing, just get on there and
a yellow today is better than your red on Friday because that's what's going to happen, right? It's because if you didn't have time today to get an hour in, but you are so sure you're going to have an hour to get done in extra to your bike and your whatever your ride and your run and your swim on Friday, then sure, move it. But the chances are you're not going to have time for 3 workouts on Friday. So instead of just delaying the red to Friday and doing nothing today, get in 30, right? And see what happens. It's just, and you know what? If Friday rolls around, you get your run and your swim in that are your primary, and you all of a sudden do that extra time, then get your extra hour in. But at least get it done. Get what you can get in today instead of assuming and wanting and hoping you can get it in on Friday or Saturday. Like people do this all the time with swims. I'm like, dude, I know you ain't going to the pool on Saturday and Sunday. Stop moving both your swims to Saturday and Sunday. And then you got your long ride and your long run more than likely. We know you ain't doing it. Find time to get in at least 20 minutes or 30 instead of getting nothing. And that is what we, again, going back to just like a societal problem is like, you know, what is it? Like, you know, great is the enemy of good, you know, and great for people now is like having the perfect week or delaying, you know, accepting that they're not going to get a work in them. You know, or read this in like our weekly training review is like, I'm just really disappointed that I missed. Dude, you missed one workout. Take a breath, relax, life. Like we say, and again, like going back to, and I mentioned this in quite a few people's Training Peaks notes, is the greatest quote probably I ever gained from an AA meeting was progress, not perfection. And that is the same as great is the enemy of good, is that we have become so obsessed with perfection that we oftentimes miss out on the greatness of good. And that is a problem that triathletes, that if it can't be done perfectly, it won't be done at all. And so listen to that again. If I can't do it perfectly, why even do it at all? Then you're missing out on doing anything, right? And that's just not the way to get better. It is not an attitude to adopt for anything in life. If I can't do it, like you and I over the last 5 years, we've done a whole lot of stuff not perfectly, but we've done it. We've figured out what worked and what didn't work. And then we try to kind of do it better. And then we figure out, and we just constantly tweak. You just can't be paralyzed by perfection that you just sit still and don't do anything, or make yourself feel better in the moment by pushing a run or a ride this Saturday or Sunday when you already know you're not going to get it done. But you don't have to accept that red in Training Peaks today. You just have to accept it on Saturday or Sunday. Just do something.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, I was going to try and make an analogy between, you know, stuff we do all day at work here, or anybody, you guys, whatever you guys do. And you're like, it's 4:00 and I got an hour left. I don't have time to finish that whole TPS report or whatever it is. But, you know, like when we're doing Training Peaks or whatever, I'll kind of be in this, I don't have that much time. But if you kind of just throw a few bricks in there and just start going at it and like get it ahead of it, you know, like there's no reason you can't do part of it. It's when I edit videos a lot. That's how I do them. It's really weird how I do videos. Like I'll start by accumulating things and I'll start putting things around. I won't even pay attention. I'll just like one day throw a bunch of stuff in there and then I'll totally forget about it. And then I'll go back in a couple of days later. I'll be like, oh, that was kind of good. So you kind of like can do stuff and forget about it. Like that's what I guess what I'm saying is like if you got 30 minutes, not an hour, just go do something for 20, 30 minutes. And then I think you look back on it and you're like, man, I'm glad I did that because I learned something, or it taught me this, or it gave me more confidence, or whatever. It added up. Like I ran a lot more this week because of that, or whatever the case may be. I think you like reflect on something that a lot of times we do that. We'll do something in the past and then find it 2 years later and be like, wow, this was pretty cool. But you just sort of didn't really finish it, but it's a really good idea. And I think that's what, you know, we look at, you know, we train by time, you know, workouts by time, running by time, everything is by time instead of miles, because like, as you always said, is like one person might be able to run 8 miles in an hour, and the other person might be a 5 mile person. So we just go by hour. So it's all relative to you. And I think sometimes that can be the catch. And it's like, 60 minutes, I can't do that. Well, why not do 35 or something? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be written in stone always. So I don't know if we're getting anywhere with this, but
I feel like we've gotten a whole lot of place. Like
all right.
This is like our own therapy session. Like we're working.
That's really important.
That's basically
too.
what every single podcast is. We're basically, you think we're talking about you. That's also the funny thing is like we'll get emails, or I'll get like texts after almost like, were you talking to me today?
Yeah.
I feel like you were talking to me. I feel like you called me out today. I'm like, dude, you know that Mike, like, just kind of sit back and we're mostly just talking about ourselves. Like, we're humans. We're inherently selfish. Like, we're pretty much talking about ourselves. It happens to be the same thing you're going through. Then you know what? We're the fortune cookie podcast. We're like, you read it and you're like, oh, that's definitely me. Like, I totally get this. Is a sign. Like, I need to change things ASAP. We're just trying to talk. We're just trying to talk it through. I think this is what everyone goes through. You and I both deal with it, not with just ourselves, obviously, but with athletes. Is that we, and I think that's part of coaching, is that you have to tell athletes, like, I know that wanting this sounds great, but the reality is, can you? Maybe it's, like we always use the vacation thing. Hey, coach, taking 2 weeks off work. Load me up. Like, I'm ready for it. And you're like, dude, you've averaged like 4 to 6 hours a week of training the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to load you up with 16 hours. That's irresponsible. And it's not going to do any good, because the next week you come back, what are you going to do? Probably 5 to 6 hours again. Like, I don't know where we got lost along the way of just accepting that being realistic is a good thing. Like, I'm a realist like that. I tend, or at least I try to not get way up and I'm just kind of a realist. I'm like, that's just kind of how it is. But we like to live in this like grandiose world of everything is the greatest, or it's the worst. It is the absolute worst. There's really no in between. And the fact that it's like 90% of your life probably is in the in between. And so, like, living in the minutia, in the gray, is where a whole heck of a lot, if not most of the work actually gets accomplished, is just kind of in the day-to-day, the stuff that's not, it just kind of is what it is. And I think that's a hard thing, because it's not exciting. Because yes, the greatness and the performances and the PRs that's exciting. But for a lot of people too, so is the horrible things, not the horrible things, but like the disappointments are also exciting, because it stimulates us in a different way. We crave and love stimulation one way or the other, but most of the work gets done in like the non-stimulated stuff. It's just kind of like the consistent day-to-day boring, work. But that's how people are wired. Like, people are wired to, we got to find something shinier and brighter.
Yeah.
I know you. Look at you. Got your gray sweatpants on, no shoes, and your blue shirt you probably had for 95 years. You're the epitome of not looking for the shinier and the brighter.
I know, but I do, like we all do, I think. And, I've been riding out at, we'll wrap this up, but I was out at Chickamauga Battlefield doing my rides, and it's an 8-mile loop or whatever like that.
Is it Chickamauga?
Chickamauga.
We don't know.
Chickamauga.
It sounds like a Mexican dish.
But yeah, so I'm doing this 8-mile loop, and I love it. For me, it's like super variance, like change of scenery. But I'm sure a lot of people would get really bored riding loops like that. But it's like I've had to come to terms with the idea that it's not a fast track, like, because I'm timing my loops, right? It seems like it would be fast, but for some reason it's not, and I can't get to the bottom of it. And I can't hammer it, it's like I cannot even get to race form on that thing at all, like race speed or whatever. So, but I've been out there a few times now, and I'm just like, it's really dawned on me that, like, that's good. You know what I mean? Like, it's if I was out there and it was all like half downhill and I was just flying around there every time, it would not be really good training for me, I don't think. So I've really come to the idea that it's like, get done with a workout and just kind of in your bones and in your gut know that was very helpful. It made a lot of progress, or maybe not a lot of progress, but you're going the right direction, because it was hard. It's hard to get to where you want to go. And like, if you went out every time and swam downstream and were like, man, I'm cooking, my swim is really, no, you want to swim upstream, and then when the race comes, it'll be easier. That's the way I've been trying to adjust, and I think that applies to what you're saying, is this day-to-day, just do the work and not expect shiny objects all the time.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get done, right? And that's just part of it.
Be grateful that you were slow today, because you maybe had to work a little bit harder, and that makes the game speed, easier to adapt to, I think.
Again, it's just about being a realist. It's like, oh man, dude, I felt great on the bike today. I think I'm making a breakthrough. Dude, you haven't worked out in 5 days. Of course you were fresh. Like, that's one of those things. Like, it's not being Debbie Downer. It's just being a realist. It's not like you had a breakthrough it's not because you had a breakthrough or you bonked or you're getting worse. It could have been like here running over the weekend. It's not like I'm back. It was because like fall's back and it was like 50 degrees and no humidity in the morning when you ran. You felt incredible, like a totally different athlete. And in 2 weeks, the sky is going to be falling again and it's going to be 100 degrees. You're like, I think I'm getting slower. I think it's happening again. Like I'm getting slower. Like it's just part of it. Like that's just, you got to take it all with a grain of salt. The good, the bad, the ugly, the greatness, the bonks, all of it. It's just like, just be a realist about it. Just kind of stay the course and keep working at it. Just like we do. We keep working on this podcast because we have a whole lot in the gray.
Oh, yeah.
A whole lot.
To be honest, it felt a little tough today. It's hot in here, I feel like.
We're trying to get acclimated.
Podcast heat acclimation.
Podcast heat acclimation. Like, you know,
if we ever have to do one outside.
You're trying to get ready for a hot race this summer. Like, you know, you don't want to be getting soft in like the 68 degree.
Woo.
You started this. Like I walked in, I was like, a month and a half ago. I was like, dude, it's hot in here. And you're like, keeping the electric bill down. And I was like, oh my God, dude. It's like I now started fueling before I come to work. They're like, what do you, like I had like 2 bottles of EFS and a couple of goos just to get through the workday because it's so hot in here.
Wow.
I think it toughens us up though. I'm all about it.
Yeah, but you've been up a lot longer. Your body's your cooling system is more in place and like, or maybe it's the opposite.
Yeah, kind of like this podcast. We just went the opposite direction. Hope you enjoyed today. Stick around. We'll come back to you on Thursday this week. If you're interested in the other things we do, camps, coaching, and our awesome community, hop on over to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop.
All right, buddy. Keep on it.
Dude. If you have any questions for Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any questions for me, c26coach@gmail.com.
Yeah, remember, we're back.
We're back for today.
All right, man. See you.